So welcome everybody to part 2 of our Atraxis webinar. Let's start with a small introduction. My name is Jeroen. If you were not in part 1, you probably see me as Fabienne, but it's definitely me, Jeroen, who's speaking. I'm support coordinator for Atraxis, and I am certified in Workday, and I have several years of Workday experience. Then we have Sharona.
Hello, I'm Sharona. I'm also working at Atraxis as a functional consultant, and I'm working in the fields learning, recruiting, and talent and performance.
So the objective of today, we would like to provide you with a clear understanding of the upcoming changes for this release, and also for you to consider what is applicable for your company and where Atraxis can assist you. Next, I would like to bring up the importance of Workday community. All the features that are in this release or in any release are based on customer experiences. These ideas are almost always brought up by brainstorms. Customers are experience any defects or add-ons that they would like to see in the system. They raise a brainstorm, and other customers can vote on it. So I would appreciate if you would keep raising brainstorms so that we can all contribute in improving the system. Also, Safe Harbor is applicable for this feature. So all the features that you will see now are still in preview tenant. And it must be said that some of the features can be different in production on 8th of September when you compare them to the features that you see now. The modules that we're going to do today are talent and performance, benefits, time tracking, learning, and recruiting. Also some details, there are opt-in features and automatically available features. The opt-in features will be shown with a wheel symbol, and the automatically available ones will be shown with an A. Also, some features that have a bigger impact will have a zoom in, which means that we will show more details. We will show screenshots, and we will tell more details about these features. So let's start with talent and performance.
Yes, thank you. So let's dive right into the talent and performance features that are available as of Workday 31. We will start with the opt-in features. First of all, there is now the possibility to archive and later restore competencies. So as an employee yourself or any HR role, you can give the ability to archive competencies that are no longer relevant for a specific employee, for example, after a job change or after a specific new focus in development. And these these competencies will be able to be archived, and if they do become relevant again, can be restored to the worker profile. A number of new report fields have been created to support this, but more information will be later given in a separate zoom-in. Secondly, we are now able to copy calibration programs. So before Workday 31, we had to manually create all of our calibration programs, which was quite a manual effort, as it takes a long time to map all of the relevant values to the right target values for your calibration. So now Workday allows this as part of a copy task, so you can copy an existing calibration program, rename it, and make any tweaks that are necessary. Also, it's now possible to configure required fields on your employee reviews. So we are moving away from the validations on the business processes themselves, but we will now be able to require comments and ratings for items and sections by configuring the employee review template itself. Fourthly, we have the Skill Cloud. This is also related to the fifth new feature, as you can see below. Skill Cloud is a further improvement of the existing skill functionality. So before Workday 31, every company has had its own skill library, which was often non-exhaustive, and it required a lot of maintenance because often they were crowdsourced. So skills were delivered and created by employees, but had to be reviewed on an admin level. Workday has now provided a list of over 150,000 different skills in the skill cloud, as they call it. This skill cloud can both be used for self-service and for the qualifications, as you can see below. So you can search for any of these 150,000 skills and add them to your personal profile, but also to any of your job requisitions that you are creating. If we then move on to the sixth new feature, you will see that this has also had an impact on the create and edit skills tasks. So whereas you before had a view skill task, you will now have an edit skills task available for which guided tours and reporting have been enabled. This will increase the user experience, and it will also allow for machine learning. So this means that when you are, for example, searching for a specific word, Workday will also return related values upon your search. For the professional affiliations type, an improvement also has been made in Workday 31. So as you know, we have a number of Workday delivered schools that are available in most tenants, and a list of companies that are created as part of the job history process. Well, now you can enable these two features to be a part of the maintain professional affiliations tasks, meaning that you can link your own professional affiliation to a specific school or company already available in your tenant. This can be set up using the maintain professional affiliation types task that is already available in your tenant, but has now a new checkbox enabled. Then we also have an improvement on the succession planning functionality. So within succession planning, it was previously not possible to copy candidates from one plan to another. You had to manually remove them and then add them to another succession plan if you wanted to do this. Now a new task has become available. It's called copy candidates from one succession plan to another, and it will allow you to both transfer the candidate themselves, but also all of the relevant data against that candidate in the succession plan. And then lastly, we have the mentorship self-service that is now available. So you can now allow employee yourself, for example, to add their own mentorships, meaning that you can add self-service roles to the initiating action for create mentorships. This will increase ownership and user-friendliness for the end user. When we then take a look at the automatically available features, two new features have been made available for the calibration. First of all, there is now more details added to the View Calibration Program report that gives you an indication on the calibrations that are already launched. When you drill down on those calibrations, you will now see more details on that specific event. You will have the availability of the launch date and the completion date. You will have an insight in the overall process and in the current status. So this will make it more user-friendly to review all of the different calibrations that have already been launched without having to go into custom reporting. If you do have some custom reporting set up, the calibration events are going to be renamed to allow for easier navigation using prompts. Before, all of the calibration events were called calibration team, which was pulled from the business process, followed by the name of the calibration program. But as programs are often reused for a specific amount of time, this was not really that friendly because you could not really indicate which of the events you were looking at. So you always had to navigate to your related actions and check it as such. Now with these new improvements, the calibration will also include the organization name, which will provide a greater context when you are selecting a calibration event in the dropdown. Next, you can clear the support checkbox on the maintain goal setup task, which means that when you are looking at your navigate goal and goal alignments report, you will no longer have the supported organizational goals shown on those reports. Regarding feedback, there has also been a new functionality that has been released that relates to giving feedback to multiple recipients. Please note that this is automatically available, so training material will need to be adapted if you are using the feedback functionality. Whereas before you only had a single select dropdown when giving feedback, this is now a multi-select dropdown, so you can give feedback, the same feedback, to multiple recipients at one time. Moving on to the last two automatically available features for talent and performance. The first one again relates to mentorships. So next to the self-service for mentorships, it is now also possible to set a default mentorship availability on a tenant level. As part of Workday 30, you could already indicate whether or not you were willing to mentor. Now you can set at a tenant level a default availability, so yes or no, and then you can allow the end user to indicate whether they want to change this value for them or not. And then lastly, a minor update has happened to the career interest functionality. So as part of your career preferences, it's now possible to select multiple values instead of just one, which increases flexibility in development conversations. When we then zoom in at the archive and restore competencies functionality, we will see that when you are going into that specific task from your worker profile, you will have both the active competencies there that you can archive, but also archived competencies that are available to restore. So as you can see, Maria has 3 active competencies that she can archive at that point in time. The success rating and target rating will be archived with that instance as well. And then there are 5 archived competencies that are available for restoring. Let's move on to the next Zoom, where we can take a look at the give feedback to multiple workers functionality. Again, this is automatically available. And as you can see, we now have a multi-select checkbox in the give feedback dropdown, which then feeds into the initiation step of the giving of feedback. And once you submit that feedback, it is then visible on the worker profile. And there a new column has been added to review all of the workers the feedback is given to. So as you can see right here, a new column has been added and you can review who else got the same feedback you did. Then also a same change was made to the career preferences task. So now you can select multiple career preferences instead of just one. Before, the additional preference was often captured in the text field below, which made reporting quite difficult. But now you can get that full view by pulling the values in the career preferences field itself. As I mentioned, it is now possible to copy candidates from succession plans to another succession plan. And as you can see here, you can select a number of candidates, so it's not necessary to copy all of them. And you can decide whether or not you want to include any values, for example, the readiness, that is labeled for that specific candidate. And lastly, let's take a look at the skill cloud. So as I mentioned, this is an opt-in feature and that can be enabled using the maintain skills and experience setups task. Important to note here is that you have to first opt in into the innovation services task. So otherwise you will not have this checkbox enabled to begin with. So once you enable this and you go into your edit skills task, you will get the full view of all of the full library of skills available to you. So when you, for example, search for philosophy, you will not only find exact matches, but you will also find related fields. For example, if you would look for math, you can also find statistics, for example, because it's a related field.
Let's go to benefits. For the opt-ins, we have one new feature, which is benefits on mobile. So now it's possible for the worker to have an open enrollment functionality for benefits on the Workday mobile. This is for iOS and Android, as always for Workday. So this makes it easier for the worker to access their open enrollment task and view their enrollment information. There's also one automatically available feature for the benefits. It's the automatically finalize open benefit events. We have a zoom in for this one. So what it actually does, you can now automatically finalize open benefit events using a schedule, as seen on the left. So it actually works the same as when you schedule a report. You can now mass close open benefit events by run now, daily recurrence, or weekly recurrence. You can select on benefit groups, so you can decide for which benefit group you want to close these events. Also for which status, so if you want to have only the in progress or not started benefits events closed. And you can also do it within a certain date, so by, on, or before a certain date. You can also use alerts that can be sent out just before you close all the events. So let's say you close it on Saturday, and the Saturday before you can have an alert sent out to all the people who have open benefit events saying, hey, please be aware we are closing this benefit event in 1 week. This feature will save you a lot of manual intervention, so you can mass close these automatically. If you go to time tracking, for the opt-ins we have two. The first one is configurable calendar totals. I also have a zoom in for this one, and also the view worker time eligibility also have a zoom in for this one. So let's go to the zoom ins. The first one is you can decide now which calculation tags are included in the totals. If you look at the screenshots on the left, you can see the regular 40 hours here and the overtime 11 hours. And if you look at the weeks, you can see that both totals are included, or both tags are included in the totals. So 9, 11, 10, 11, and 10 hours from Monday to Friday. And in the second screenshot, we decided to not add the overtime to the totals, so it only shows the regular hours, or the regular 40 hours of the employee. This is only for the enter time calendar. Other sums like submit time and time review events are not affected. And this will give you more flexibility and a better user experience for the time tracking for the workers and the time tracking module. The second one is the view workers time eligibility. This feature, you can see which worker is eligible for what time calculation. So you can see on the screenshot on the left, you can see if an employee on the entry date, start date, of end date, if he is eligible for certain time calculations. If you look at the second screenshot, you have the calculations itself. You can see, Mr. Kevin Turner on the entry date of the 17th of July, sorry, he's eligible for these time calculations. And next to that, you also have a calendar where you can filter on month, week, or year, and you can see exactly on which day or week or month this employee is eligible for. This feature will give you a better way to troubleshoot or to see the eligibility of a worker for time calculations. If we go to the automatically available features for time tracking, the first one is the review time report. I also have a zoom in for this one, so we can go to this one after the rest. The second one is the day breaker evaluation on a daily basis. So you can now change the worker's day breaker in the middle of a week without manually adjusting the calculated time. And the third one is work tags in entry time. So now you can search and apply work tags during a time entry that are only active on the effective date of the time entries. We also have a zoom in for this one. So the first is the review time report. As you can see in the screenshot, you have a nice report which was already in Workday 30. But now you have the breakdown, so you can see the regular, overtime, and standby on call days. So you have more visibility on time that is being added by employees. Also, there is an improved search on mid-year hires, and also the report can contain up to 250 employees. Next to that, also the approval process is simpler, so you just have to select an employee and you click on approve, and the approval goes through the system. The work times in entry time, like I said, if you, for example, inactivate an organization on the 17th of May and an employee wants to add time on the 17th of May as well, and it wants to choose that cost center, but you inactivated already, it will not be shown in the prompt. This will definitely give you more correct data, since you don't have to correct these mistakes, and it also is better accuracy. Some work tags don't have an effective date for inactivation. So when you enter time, when a worker enters time, only the active work tags will be shown in the prompt as well. Let's go to learning.
So when we move on to learning, we will again first take a look at the opt-in features, where a new major feature has been released, being the learning paths. Learning paths is a functionality where a learner can give shape to their own learning path by creating personalized curriculums. So they can create different paths that they want to complete and that they want to track in the future. To support this, a new prompt will become available on the digital course view report or the blended course view report, and this will allow users to directly add content to their existing learning path or to create a new one and add content to the new learning path. Once a full learning path has then been created, it can be accessed from the learning dashboard. So a new dashboard will become available, being the My Library dashboard, which can be accessed through the Learning Worklet. And it will give you access to create and view existing learning paths. And it will also give access to the delivered Workday, the Workday delivered learning path, being called the Watch Later learning path. So this is a sort of playlist that you want to keep track of for future reference. When a learning path is then selected, you access the new View Learning Path report, which gives you the possibility to edit the name of a learning path, to delete a learning path, and to view the content and enroll in the courses that are included in the learning path. And lastly, you can sort and delete items that you have added to the specific curriculum. Again, a new list of new reports fields have been enabled to support reporting on learning paths. Thirdly, a new domain has become available. It is called the Manage Learning Enrollments domain, and it allows you to separate mass drop and mass enroll for learning from the general course management and course catalog management. So this allows you to more granularly define roles and responsibilities within the system. Then we also have a new security group available for learning. It is called the Instructor as Self-Security Group, and it builds upon the Instructor functionality. Before, you only had the existing All Instructors Security Group, but this will allow you to more granularly define access for reporting and business processes to a specific instructor that has been assigned to a course. So you will no longer have full access as an instructor, but you will be restricted to those courses you have full access for as an instructor. Then learning validations have also become available for learning in Workday 31. It's important to keep in mind that these do not work as the other validation that we know in the system, so they are not built from the business process definition, but they are built using the new maintain learning validations report. There you can then select which of the business processes you want to set those validations for. You can choose between the enroll and drop course business processes. And you're also able to configure both soft warnings and blocking errors, which is quite unique within the Workday system. For video interactions and edit media, another update has happened. So recently, the video interactions have become available for Workday Learning, which means that you can add questions, feedback questions, and other interactions to your video material and your digital courses. Now it becomes possible to keep track of those scores, so the answers you have given during that video, and to use that score as the automatic course grade for that specific video, which means that an instructor or a learning coordinator would not have to go in and see how you did on the scoring of that video interaction to then manually set the grade for that course. And last but not least, Workday 31 now enables us to set translations for your learning configuration. So alternate data for learning can now be translated. This has both the topics in there, but also really the lessons, the courses that are already available within your tenant. So those can now be translated on a tenant level. Moving on to the automatically available features, the first two are related. So on the admin and instructor view of a course, you have two new tabs available. The first one is the enrollment details tab, which gives direct access to pending, dropped, and active enrollments for a specific course or course offering. And then secondly, we have the creating an attendance task tab, which gives direct access to the creating an attendance for the attendees for a specific course. It is important to keep in mind that this is strictly a view access, so you are not able to update these grades directly from that page. This will require an update in your training material. Then another change was made to the view and edit media functionality. It now allows you to display video transcriptions on the right-hand side of your videos as you are uploading a caption file. These can then remain visible throughout your entire video as you are reviewing your captions. And a final minor change, the button that was called Download Schedule, which was a link to download the ICS file to your personal calendar, is now renamed to Add to Calendar. Let's zoom in on the learning paths. So first, we can add new content to a learning path. As you can see, the new button with the drop-down has become available on the View Digital Course Report, and you can directly add your content to the learning path. When you then go to your learning worklet, you have the My Library dashboard, which holds all of the different learning paths that you've already created. You can create new ones, and you can take a look at the Watch Later where they delivered learning path. Once you click into one of the learning paths, you can then take action on that. You can review the content, reorder the content, you can rename your learning path or delete it, and you can straight from that view also enroll or begin consuming your content. Moving on to zoom in on the learning validations. So this is a setup side of things. As you can see, we have a new task available called Maintain Learning Validations, where you can select which of the processes, being either drop course or enroll in a course, you want to set a validation for. Then you can select whether or not you want to make this a stopping blocking error, so a critical error, or you just want to have a soft warning for the user before they're moving forward. Here you can both maintain and create validations. When you are setting up your validations, this does work the same way as a normal validation rule would look like. So you can create your condition rule and then set your message that you want to show as a validation message. When we then take a look at the results, we have here, for example, created a rule where we do not want people to enroll in a course offering that is open but does not have a start date within the next 3 months. So if people try to enroll in this course, they will get a message at this that they are not able yet to enroll in this course because the enrollment has not really opened yet. And lastly, let's take a look at the instructor as self-security group. So before all of the instructors shared the security group, all instructors, which means that they were all able to see the entire full view of the grading and attendance and the enrollments for a specific course. With the new instructor as self-security group, we can restrict it to a restricted view for the primary instructor for a course, meaning that only the instructor assigned to a course will see the grading and enrollments tab, and an instructor that is not assigned to a course will only see the regular information, so the course description. And let's then move on to recruiting. For recruiting, a lot of new functionality has become available, so let's dive right in and start with the opt-in features. So first of all, it's now possible to define multiple job profiles upon creating a job requisition. These job profiles will all flow further through the process and into your offer stage or staffing event, where you are then able to select the final job profile for which you want to hire the candidates. This increases flexibility in all of the staffing events. For offer, it is now also possible to hide and require fields. So if you are using configure optional fields task, you will see that a new BP business process will become available in this dropdown, where you can define which of these fields you want to have required or even hidden if it's needed. Then from a candidate perspective, a change has been made to the candidate home functionality. This is only visible for quite a specific setup. So if you are sending tasks to a candidate upon applying for a job, so directly after the application step. So let's say you are sending out an assessment directly after submitting their application. The candidate will no longer have to go back in and navigate to their account to see that specific step, but they will directly see it pop up upon applying for that job, meaning that it will be more user-friendly for them, and the waiting time for a recruiter to see the results come in will diminish. Then two changes have been made available for the candidate list. The first is for the mass actions. Before Workday 31, all of the mass actions mentioned here, being move forward or decline, send message, move to linked job requisition or evergreen requisition, and decline remaining jobs or candidates, were secured against one big domain, which did not allow you to restrict this responsibility for a specific role. So someone who could mass action and move someone forward could also send them a message, for example. This has now been split out into separate domains, allowing you to more granularly define which mass actions are available for specific security groups. Next to that, the candidate lists have also been further improved for specific candidates. So you are now able to sort your candidate grids. So for example, you can sort on the application date or on the scoring of a specific questionnaire. And you are also able to define specific candidate list configurations based on specific condition rules. For example, you can say that if for a job application for student workers, you are focusing on the educational background, whereas you would focus on job history background for all other candidates. Before Workday 31, this was already available, but it was only available for worker types, being employee or contingent worker job applications. Now with Workday 31, it also becomes possible to automatically initiate background check processes based on the condition rules set. This will then be automatically sent out to your third-party provider. Here it is very important to do a lot of regression testing if you do decide to implement this, because of course it will impact any integration that you have currently set up. Next, you can also improve your interface on your external career site. First of all, you are now able to add and embed videos on your job postings, and you can do this on a job application level, meaning that you can, for a specific job posting, you can set a different video than you would do for another job posting on the same career site. So this uses condition rules and allows you to brand very flexibly based on, for example, the location of a specific job posting. Here you have to keep in mind that you have to have access to the media services within Workday. Secondly, a more general improvement has been made, especially very handy for people who are keeping the GDPR compliance in mind. You are now able to set terms and conditions by country instead of having one terms and conditions text for the entire external career site. So before, you had to make sure that the terms and conditions met all of the legal requirements of all of the regions you are recruiting in. Whereas now you can set a default terms and condition text and then define on a country-based level whether or not you want to move away from that specific terms and conditions. For recruiters, it's now also possible to directly in the tenant review resumes or other documents linked to a candidate. So this is a general improvement within Workday, but it's especially important for recruiters. So they do no longer have to always save files locally and download them, but they will be able to click into the document, already preview it without having to download it, and just close it if needed. Next to the improved condition rules for background checks, it's now also possible to set condition rules for assessments and questionnaires. So before Workday 31, assessments and questionnaires were defaulting in off of the job profile. This has now further been improved by allowing the condition rules to be added to assessments and questionnaires. So you can now, for example, send out a different questionnaire for the same job profile, but for a different location. These will still default in on your job requisition and evergreen requisition creation page. And then we now also have the possibility to add another internal career site that is completely separate from your existing Find Jobs report, and which allows a specific job application flow to be followed for example, contingent workers. So this will improve their candidate experience, and they will no longer access from the external career site as was often done before. Another opt-in functionality is the adding of competencies to interviews. So it is now possible to specify a specific competency you want to discuss during an interview and to link feedback directly to that competency. So this allows for better interview management and allows for better communication on questions asked during an interview. For the referral process, another change has also been made. You can now have exact matches on referrals be merged automatically in the system. So before Workday 31, if two exact referrals were made on the same job requisition, the the process within Workday did not allow you to automatically merge these or to automatically flag that duplicate, which now has become possible. Another new feature that really improves the recruiter experience is a personal reminder. So this is a self-service task that's becoming available to the recruiter, and which allows them to set personal reminders for candidates and prospects in the system. This reminder will then be sent out to the recruiter at the specified time and will remind them, for example, to give feedback on an interview, to call them back after a decline, for example. We will zoom into this feature later on. Another improvement on the candidate homepage has also become available. So before Workday 31, it was not possible to reapply for a job you previously applied for and either withdrew from or were declined for. This is now possible. You can reapply to an evergreen or job requisition that was already completed for you. So meaning that you will no longer be declined for that specific job requisition when you are trying to apply for it. This will especially be useful for evergreen requisition where seasonal workers might reapply to the same evergreen multiple times in a row. And then we have the address components by country configuration. So this streamlines the process between HCM and the regular worker records and recruiting with their candidate profiles. So by allowing configuration of recruiting address components by country, you make sure that the data is more accurate when flowing from the candidate profile to the worker profile later on. Then we have the 4 final opt-in features. The first one being the recruiting assessments on the candidate profile. So here it is important to keep in mind that the configuration might differ drastically based on your compliance requirements. Workday now allows you to show all of the assessment test results on one candidate profile. This allows for recruiters to see the test results from an older or still open job application where they are not assigned to as a primary recruiter. On the other hand, you are also able to completely restrict that security using segmented security. And this will then allow you to restrict the access to the assessment results based on, for example, the assessment type or the job application they are working on. A similar improvement has been made to questionnaires. Before Workday 31, you could only restrict access to questionnaire results based on the stage of the job application process. This has now been further improved by also allowing segmented security for specific questionnaires. So you can either restrict access to a questionnaire, restrict access to a job application process step, or combine both and only allow visibility to one or more of the questionnaires within a specific stage of the job application process. So again, this will support any GDPR or other compliance within your organization. Then we have a crossover improvement between HCM and recruiting. It is now possible to add embedded analytics for job requisitions, pulling from the jobs requisition supervisory organization. And lastly, we have a feature that's delayed to production and to preview tenants. So in Workday 31, new diversity metrics will be added into the tenants to improve your visibility into candidates' diversity. Moving on to the automatically available features, the first one really only has an impact to Korean and Japanese candidates. They are now able to populate their address using their postal code, so that an automatic validation will be done there. Secondly, we have a major improvement for recruiters. So this was a a brainstorm that was very, very popular. So I think a lot of customers will be very happy with this. It's now possible to group resumes for up to 100 candidates into one PDF file. So before Workday 31, you had to manually select and download each of the different resumes you wanted to print. Now you can pull all of them together into one file, download it, and print if necessary. After this, I will zoom in into this feature so you will have a first look at how it will work. Then we have another automatic improvement to the candidate home accounts. So it's now possible to automatically merge the candidate home accounts when there is a duplicate record of a specific candidate. And then next to the configure optional fields for employment agreements, 3 other enhancements have been made. So you can now create probation and notice period eligibility rules based on the values you have added on the employment agreement. You can view details on the employment agreement event in the business process history using the View Details button. And you can display the job profile field on the candidate profiles, employment agreement details tab, and employment agreement history tab. This will support the use of multiple additional job profiles that was mentioned in the opt-in features. Next to the address validations, we also now support global phone number validation for candidates. This will again improve usability and consistency of your phone number data. So the data quality will be improved and will better flow from your candidate profiles to your work profiles later on. It is now also possible to add and remove questionnaires during the job applications for your job and evergreen requisitions, meaning that halfway through you can update which questionnaire you want to ask from people to fill in. This improves the flexibility and efficiency for recruiters by a whole lot. This is also the case for the next feature. So now we will support the recruiter by showing the recruiting instructions entered by, for example, HR or the hiring manager during the creation of the job requisition. We will show those instructions on the post-job task. So they will not have to refer back to the job requisition event. They can directly view those instructions on where to post a job and then decide to which job posting sites they want to post to. And when they are looking at multiple requisitions in different tabs in their browser, Workday now has made a minor tweak, but something that really improves the user experience for the recruiter by showing the requisition title in the browser tab. So before you just had a general title there, which was the same across all of the different tabs. But right now, this will update to the requisition title, so it's very easy to navigate between different tabs and to see which of the requisitions you are looking at. In the search functionality of Workday itself, there's now also a new prefix available to search for prospects by using prospect call. So this works the exact same way as BP for business processes or org for organizations. For the candidate, it is now also possible to view any of the job applications they have already submitted in their candidate home account. So before you could confirm that you had applied for a job, but you could not really see what data you had entered for that job. So using the view job application report on the candidate home, this is now possible for the candidate. And we will also now allow for an address update, more specifically for an email address update. So before Workday 31, candidates were able to update their address information for their home address, but they could not update their email address because that was linked to the candidate home account itself. So they always had to contact internally their recruiter and ask them to make that change, which caused a lot of overhead for the candidates and the recruiters. So with Workday 31, this major problem will be fixed and candidates will be able to do this using self-service. And then we have the background check and assessment pop-up view. Again, this increases the experience for the recruiter and reduces the amount of clicks they have to do to navigate between different tasks. So what is this really? Well, when you are starting a background check or an assessment check for a specific candidate, before you would be led to an entire new page where you indicate which of the tests or which of the background check packages they have to take. Whereas now, a pop-up screen will pop up where you can give the details that are needed to initiate. And then once you submit, you will just be brought back to your initial page. This means that you will no longer have to navigate always back to your job application flow to start the process for another candidate. Zooming into the internal career site that is now available for non-workers. So this really is an entirely new type of career site, which allows you to set all of the parameters as you would do for the other career sites. So for example, you can specify your withdrawal messages, source that you want to link to, and things like that. And then once you complete this and go in as a non-worker, you will see how it looks like from another side. As you can see, a specified job application flow is followed for this application, which looks different from the normal job application process. Then zooming in on the configurable terms and conditions by country. So this is an improvement that is available on your edit external career sites task. And as you can see, the default is still set at the top, but then a new grid has become available where you can indicate for a country whether or not you want to have a specified terms and conditions text there, or if applicable, you do not want to ask any terms and conditions at all. So if there is no legal requirement to have a candidate confirm terms and conditions, you can restrict that section altogether. This is zooming in on the bundle resumes task, which will become available from the mass actions grid. So when you go into your candidate grid and select a number of employees, you can click on the bundle resumes task. Then a new screen will open that shows you an overview of the selected candidates and their files. Once you then click OK, in the background, a new report will be generated that will become available in your My Reports task, and which will give you the document on where you can see all of the different resumes that you've bundled together to download. So when you are opening this specific file, you will see that you have an overview of all of the resumes included in that file. And this will also give you a first look at the document preview task. So you see that you, for example, for this specific job requisition, you have bundled together 2 resumes for the following candidates with 2 attachments that are included. And if you look at the right-hand side, that small arrow allows you to click through the different components of the documents, or you can directly download it and print it if you want to. Then we will move on to a zoom on the personal reminders for recruiters. So as you can see, this is a new tab that you can add on your candidate profile. And this allows you to set a reminder for yourself, for example, to be reminded in 1 month to get in touch with that candidate, see if they still are available for this position or they want to be declined. Once you save this reminder, it will then become available in the upcoming reminders tab on your worker profile, where you can edit or delete it later on. This is the first insight in the pop-up screen for Assess Candidate. So as I mentioned, when you are selecting a candidate, for example, Dan Johnston, in your candidate grid, and you're moving forward to the Assess stage, before you would have been brought to an entire new page where you initiate the assessment for that candidate. Now, Workday will show you a pop-up screen to enter all of the necessary details for that stage. And once you click submit, the background check process, the assessments will start in the background, but it will bring you back to the initial page, so the candidate grid page. As you can see, you will receive a confirmation on the upper right-hand corner saying that your assessment has been started.
So this was the webinar. I hope you are still there. Thank you for joining. If you have any questions or remarks about this webinar, for example, if you have a question or you want to see more about a feature, just send me an email or log a case if you are one of our support customers, and then we will come back to you as soon as possible. Also, this recording will be shared with you soon. It will also be visible on YouTube, but we will send you an email about this as soon as possible. So thank you again, Sharona. Also thank you, and yeah, we hope to hear from you soon. Thank you very much.